sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Bryan Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad.
You are now listening to Open Season. Your host, Billy Allen.
All right. We appreciate you tuning in. It is Open Season. I'm your host, Billy Allen. We're doing it live from the Space Center here in Norwood. Bryan Murphy produces the show, 617-702-2542. Look up in the sky. Is it a comet? What is it? Yeah, something that's rare. The Celtics finally make a change in the organizational hierarchy. And is Brad Stevens the right man for the job in the president's spot? LeBron James loses his first playoff series ever. Atlanta's still surprising people as the Nets are just wiping the floor with the Milwaukee Bucks. And the Bruins, they're knotted up, or they're actually down 3-2 in a series right now against the Islanders. Julio Jones finds a great new quarterback. Wait. Ryan Tannehill is who he wanted to play with? He left Matt Ryan to play with Ryan Tannehill? I've got questions. But first, in what is probably the Celtics, I mean, this is just, do they ever make, when I am not often flabbergasted, but when they made this move, I was just, they never change things up. I mean, talk about having the most comfortable job ever. That's on the Celtics. I mean, if you're in the organization and you're getting paid for that, I mean, you never have to worry about you losing your job or anything like that. You're going to die before they get rid of you. So for the Celtics to actually switch things up and knock Danny Ainge out of town, this is part one of their two-part plan to get Billy Allen back as a fan, of course. Part one is get rid of Danny Ainge so he can stop sitting on his hands every trade deadline. And part two, of course, is getting rid of Marcus Smart, so hopefully that initiative is well underway. But a bunch of things are up in the air, smoke going. Perk, who do you think should be the next Celtics coach?
You know what? I think it should be Sam Cassell, to be honest. We're talking about a guy that won a championship in Boston, all right, that won 2 championships as a player with the Rockets. He's been around. He's played with Hall of Famers like Akeem Olajuwon and Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. And he served his time as an assistant, right? And one thing we know about Sam is that he is well respected. You need a guy in that locker room that's going to be the head of the snake, that guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the Celtics' 2 young stars, are going to respect and listen to. Also a guy that's going to hold them accountable. What can they possibly tell Sam Cassell if he tell them something or hold them accountable? Because he has won at the highest level. He's did it at the highest level, meaning playing-wise. So I think Sam Cassell is the best fit for this job, and I think he will be the perfect hire.
So there you hear it right there. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of people that maybe have a stake in this job. Jason Kidd was a name that came up. Christ, I hope that's not the case. What does that guy need to do to prove that he's not a good coach? So hopefully that's not the case. But a couple other interesting names that are coming up. You're hearing names like Sam Cassell. I don't know too much about Sam Cassell as far as him being. Is he actually going to get the respect of these guys? I think you have to bring in somebody like Chauncey Billups. You go back to those Detroit teams. He was really the guy who galvanized those teams, who led a lot of those teams. You had guys like Rasheed Wallace, who was maybe the best talent on that team, but it was definitely Chauncey Billups who reined those guys in, took his game to another level. This is someone who knows how to win. Sam Cassell, I mean, sure, he was good in the early days. I just feel like you need to bring in a guy like Chauncey Billups. You really need to make a splash. It's probably got to be similar to Brad Stevens. Last time, I don't even think that anybody really had Brad Stevens on the Celtics' radar. So you have to do something different here. You have to go all in and really bring in a good head coaching candidate here, because what you have to do over the next couple of years is you have to convince Jason Tatum that this is a place to be beyond a second contract because it's a stars league. You need to basically turn over the keys to Jason Tatum at this point in time and say, Jason, who do you want to be the coach? Who do you want to play with? Because this is how teams work. Look at the Nets. You got to appease somebody like Kyrie. You got to appease somebody like Durant. Look at all these teams that are winning. They are just listening to their best player and doing what it is that that player says they want. So, Jason Tatum, you're 23. You're going to be at the front of this team, and please consult this guy on what to do. He's friends with Bradley Beal. They're really tight from their St. Louis connections. Why not bring in a guy like Bradley Beal? Why not bring in a coach that can get along with these guys? That's going to be 60 points right there between two guys. And I think that's a pretty good start at a decent new team. You give somebody away like Jaylen Brown and, maybe another player or two, but you do that to bring in somebody like Bradley Beal. And it all goes back to they need to have a coach that you feel like can get something done and somebody that these guys are going to respect. Because we saw that with Brad Stevens, you could come in, you could be a nerd, you could be a brainiac, you can know everything. You can drop great plays out of timeouts. But on long games in April, in May, when these guys are losing a little bit of steam, can you get their respect? Can you get through to them? Brad Stevens wasn't able to get through to them. So you can't go with a smarter coach because Brad Stevens is about as smart as it gets. You have to start going with some cachet here, and you've got to bring in somebody like Chauncey Billups to get this done. I've heard the name Juwan Howard come up as well. I like what he's done too, but he's gone back to Michigan, and does he have a lot of incentive to leave that team for? Let's face it. Outside of Boston isn't the best gig, really. Boston isn't quote-unquote a destination. It's not an L.A. It's not a Miami. It's not some place that's always going to be stocked. You saw that when Paul Pierce was here, there was another good player that played with Paul Pierce for 10 years, and you almost had Paul Pierce getting out of town. So the Celtics have to do something interesting to shake things up. You've got to go all in on somebody like Chauncey Billups, somebody like Juwan Howard, somebody who's been there before, done it. You keep hearing that Juwan Howard was a two-time NBA champion. I believe he was a DNP in both of those playoff runs. So how much playoff experience does he have? Does he actually know what it takes to win? I think this would be somebody that the Celtics would potentially respect, though. It seems like you have to bring in a former player because the message was getting a little bit lost. And I think it's tough when you're looking down at, what is Brad Stevens, like a 6-foot nerd that you're questioning, is this somebody that's only been able to galvanize college talent so far? It didn't work with somebody like Kyrie Irving. So, you've got question marks there. You've got to bring in somebody that can get through to these guys. And my pick is going to be Chauncey Billups. I think that's what you've got to do. You really have to pay him whatever he wants, do what it takes, but you've got to be able to do that to bring in somebody that's going to excite these guys because it's all about how do we keep Jason Tatum beyond this? And ideally, you want to keep Jaylen Brown as well. But I really do believe that Jason Tatum, for whatever crap he may get, he's 23 years old. He, for my money, is the best scorer we've ever seen in a Celtics jersey. He's 23. So can we please on all the clutch stuff? Because you have to be in clutch situations in order to be clutch. How many times have we seen that with different guys? I mean, was LeBron clutch before he was in the finals? Were all these guys clutch? You can't be clutch until you're actually there. So let's wait and let's get Jason Tatum a team that can actually get there. It's going to start with a coach, though, too. Because why even get all these other guys together if they're not going to be excited enough to stay here for a couple of years? You have to put together something that's going to get Jason Tatum excited. Ask Jason Tatum. Make him part of this because look across the league. It's teams that isolate their stars. You look at the Texans, and for whatever Deshaun Watson is going through right now, when they didn't get his opinion on who they should bring in for some personnel people, it's got him at odds. And you look at all these different teams, it doesn't matter who the coach is in the NBA. I mean, look at the last couple people. Is Frank Vogel a great coach? I don't think so. Are some of these other coaches that have won it? Is Steve Kerr really a great coach? I mean, it looks good in a suit, and he can speak decently. But what do you actually need these days? I don't really think you need the best X and O's guys out there, because at the end of the day, when it's a few seconds left, it's going to be your stars going, basically doing what it is that they do, going one-on-one, shooting clutch shot. I mean, it all comes down to what your stars can do. So you have to make the stars happy. So can we please try to do that here? And no more G. Willikers. And it's got to be, for all the crap that Boston has got, it's got to be. I don't see how it couldn't be a black coach. I mean, I just don't see for everything. This has to be a black coach. There's been some rumors of maybe bringing in a woman or something like that, and maybe that's a good idea. But for my money, I think you have to bring in an ex-player. I think that's what's really going to get these guys' attention. Somebody that's done it before, and you've seen that in somebody like Chauncey Billups. So let's see what the Celtics actually do. Please just do not bring in somebody that is going to be here for like a year or two. And with all that being said, is Brad Stevens really the guy that you want moving on in the president's spot? The president of basketball operations. I trust this guy to grind it out, to grit it out on a clipboard. But am I trusting this guy to be the best evaluator of talent? I think this is somebody that's passionate about coaching and is going to want to get back to that. I think this is a Band-Aid until they find the next person that they want to have there. I would not be surprised at all if the Celtics are getting calls for somebody like, if they're getting calls in a year or now saying, hey, we want Brad Stevens, but we want Brad Stevens as our coach. And that's what I think is ultimately going to happen. I would be shocked if this is a long-term move. I mean, for me, I think it's kind of failing up. I would like to go into the president of basketball operations spot, but typically a coach is not really going to do that. You're looking at somebody that has been an evaluator of talent for a long time, somebody that's maybe been a former player. Brad Stevens isn't really taking the traditional path here into that spot, so I don't know if he's the best candidate to do it. Clearly, he's somebody who knows the players. Clearly, he's somebody that the people in Boston trust, but he's also somebody that's got a mega-fat contract. The Celtics have given this guy, 2-3 contract extensions, and he's been here, 8 years? So everybody says that maybe he's got another 4 or 5 years on his deal. So I think the Celtics really don't want to pay another person. There were rumors that somebody like Sam Presti from Oklahoma City was out there, and you've got to make the move for somebody like that if you can ultimately get that. He's a better evaluator of talent. He obviously put together some of those Oklahoma City teams, so you've got to do that. You can't put somebody like Brad Stevens in there if you have a chance to get Sam Presti, but Sam Presti is actually going to want some money, and you're already paying that money to Stevens, so that's what I think is the Celtics' plan. I would not be surprised if we see Brad Stevens move on from this role in a year or so, but it's a decent Band-Aid. But all eyes for me are on the coach, and the Celtics cannot fail with this. Take your time, bring in a former player, get somebody that these guys are going to respect. You had a coach who had all the smarts, a coach that was a brainiac and made all the best plays coming out of timeouts. You've seen that doesn't necessarily work. So let's get somebody that these guys respect. So speaking of that, somebody that's pretty respected in his time, a player, LeBron James. So LeBron losing his first ever, if you believe it, first ever playoff series in the first round, and just add it to another list of things that he's been able to accomplish throughout his career. But I just feel like anybody who's saying, this is why Jordan's number one. I mean, first off, Jordan had plenty of years where he didn't make the playoffs until he had an actual team. But let's be real. The reason why is not because LeBron lost a playoff series in his 18th year. The reason is that Jordan had all these scoring titles, that he won all these MVPs. I mean, don't sit here and tell me. I heard Skip Bayless the other day saying that this is the reason why Jordan is better. And I just think that's such a bad argument. I mean, even if you want to just say that Jordan's better, I mean, at least say that it's based off the scoring titles, the MVPs, all that. It's not based off some playoff series that LeBron is losing not even at full health, not with an Anthony Davis. I mean, without Anthony Davis, how many teams are going that much further? The Suns are a good team. Look at the win that they just had last night with Chris Paul coming off an injury. That team is a focused team, and I'm not saying that the Lakers weren't the better team, but that team is really is doing well. And without Anthony Davis, I think any of us knew that was going to be a tough series for them. I thought Anthony Davis was at least going to be able to play, but I am extremely disappointed in Anthony Davis. I mean, that guy clearly has no interest in putting his cojones on the table and trying to run something back 2 years in a row. I mean, Shaq, all these guys that are walking with limps that had to retire a couple of years early, is Anthony Davis really going to look back and say, oh, thank God, I missed those 2 games in the first round of the playoffs to stay a little bit healthier? Put it on the table. Try to get your shots, come out there, at least do what you can. Anthony Davis, I just feel like this guy, I mean, he is perpetually playing like 60 games a year. I just don't have a lot of respect for that guy. But somebody that I do have a lot of respect for is Chris Paul, who is really playing at a different level. We've talked about it all year long. We have discussed Chris Paul for MVP, and I honestly think that Chris Paul, I said this before, but you shouldn't be able to do voting off the playoffs. But if you were able to, Chris Paul being able to take out the Lakers, I mean, that is a huge thing for him to have done. That team, this place, I mean, Chris Paul has kind of been traded to a couple of no-mans. He gets sanctioned out of Houston to go to the Thunder last year on a young team, leads them to the playoffs, and then going to the Suns this year. I mean, just doing things that haven't even been done since 1965 against the Nuggets in the playoffs. I mean, all kinds of different things. So he had 21 points, 11 assists against the Nuggets. I mean, did we ever think a year ago that if you took Chris Paul and put him on the Suns, that they'd be a team that would be able to knock out the Nuggets? Now, I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to win, and you saw that the Joker actually was just voted MVP really right before the show. So the Joker, I think he is going to bounce back, get some of those guys involved. Michael Porter Jr. is kind of fallen asleep here over the last few games, so I'm not saying that series is over. But the fact that you could just add Chris Paul to that Suns team and they could be a game ahead of the Denver Nuggets this year is absolutely mind-blowing to me. I mean, Jay Crowder, some of the guys that are on this Suns team. Did anybody even know some of these guys a couple of years ago? I mean, somebody like Kelly Oubre was trying to get the hell out of town and not even be part of the Suns. They weren't even able to keep a player like that. So it's extremely impressive what they're doing. And, I honestly could not believe that they beat the Nuggets last night. Chris Paul is on a different level. This guy is 36 years old. I mean, this guy is only 6 feet tall. I mean, how many guys have been this good, this deep into their career? And he's averaging, 17 points, 9 assists. I mean, this guy has been absolutely ageless. So I think that Chris Paul has been crazy impressive, and I've always been somebody who's hated on Chris Paul. I think he hits people in the nuts a little bit too much. I think he complains a little bit too much. He's really never won a whole lot. But the Chris Paul effect is real. Look at the teams that he's gone to. He has changed their record tremendously, the teams that he's gone to. So you've got to just look at that, and at some point I'm a slave to the scoreboard because Chris Paul is getting things done. And, I mean, much to my chagrin, I would love to see Chris Paul failing, but a lot of people are kind of rooting for him. So I don't know. Go Chris Paul maybe? But can the Suns really keep this up over the Nuggets? They kind of run them out of the building last night. Mikal Bridges with 23 points. And, DeAndre Ayton coming in with 20 and 10. He's really been able to play at a different level ever since Anthony Davis got hurt in that series. The Lakers series, it really seemed to be whoever played better, Ayton or Davis, and Davis has been somebody that's gotten a little bit of crap. Should the Suns hire this guy? Bring this guy on for an extension or something like that. So DeAndre Ayton, the young big man, he's definitely been playing a little bit better. And, the Phoenix Suns just going on an insane second half run to beat the Denver Nuggets. Another team that we probably wouldn't have thought much of a year ago is the Atlanta Hawks. And the Atlanta Hawks are a game up as well on the Philadelphia 76ers. Trae Young has absolutely been having his way with people, scoring over 30 points again. And he's really just been tremendous so far in this playoffs. Really been a one-man wrecking crew for this Atlanta Hawks team. I mean, he just dissolved the New York Knicks and their defense. So he's run through them, and you're looking at this new class of superstars, Trae Young and Luka Doncic. I mean, Luka loses in Game 7, but the fact that he even pushed them to a Game 7, the fact that he pushed the LA Clippers, who 2 years ago we said, this team is unfair. I mean, you've just got Kawhi Leonard, you got Paul George, you have all these pieces around them. They're going to win a title for the next couple of years. So for a team that had those aspirations just a couple of years ago, I mean, it's pretty nuts to be able to put them in their place. And, it's just nuts what Luka is doing. I mean, look at that roster. That roster is disgusting. I wouldn't even want to play. Porzingis, what is he, 7'3"? He's averaging 5 rebounds a game. Does anybody else on that team have guts? And you hear that Porzingis, he's taking a step backwards. Oh, maybe he doesn't feel like he's the primary star. He's not. He's not the star. He was the star in the Knicks when they were a team of rubbish a couple of years ago. But injuries and things have changed that. And when you're on a team with Luka Doncic, someone who's basically through these playoffs so far averaging a 30-point triple-double, I'm sorry, buddy, but Luka just turned 22, and he's a whole lot better than you. So Porzingis, I think there's somebody in the playoffs who's like 5'10" this year that's averaging more rebounds than Porzingis. So Porzingis just really is not playing at the level that you would have thought when they brought him in. When the Knicks pulled him out of the rough a few years ago as the 4th pick, it just seemed like he had an insane amount of talent. He was not even somebody that spent a whole lot of time in the low post and getting 2 blocks easily, while hitting over 2 threes, and he's really just taken a step back. So with the Mavs, who do you put around Luka Doncic? You have unquestionably one of the best offensive players in the game today, and somebody that, while he hasn't been in a ton of clutch situations, you got to say that this guy is clutch. When it is the last couple minutes of the game, he makes shots. He doesn't shoot the best three-point percentage, but when it's the last couple minutes, the bucket's going in with Luka. I mean, he is straight up dangerous at the end of the game. But talk about 2 young superstars, Luka Doncic and Trae Young. The trade obviously happening a couple of years ago on draft night, but definitely 2 guys that are representing the next generation of superstars. And to go on the award for Jokic, because we talked about this earlier in the season. Could a center be able to average this many assists over the course of a season? 8.3 assists a game as the center. Just crazy. His availability, his play. You had a pretty tight MVP race this year. You're looking at people like Embiid, Steph Curry, other finalists. If Embiid probably stays healthy, he probably wins the MVP because that team won a lot of games, and Embiid was averaging like 30 and 10. Steph Curry was obviously a really good MVP candidate too, but I think you have to win a couple more games. I don't think you can be in the A spot and win the MVP. So, for Jokic, he probably would be my pick too. Maybe not the sexiest pick, but I would say unquestionably the most valuable player for the entire season. Steph Curry probably gave it to us in flashes, maybe the last 2-3 months. Joel Embiid, maybe the first couple months. So, it's just nuts. And what he's done leading Denver into the second round of the playoffs without Jamal Murray, without Will Barton, without P.J. Dozier, it's been pretty impressive. So this guy is somebody that was taken on the 41st pick. So for somebody that says that you can't get talent in the second round, sure, you can't count on it. But Jokic was taken at the 41st pick. This is an MVP candidate. So and he absolutely abused Jokic, in the last series. So, it's been fun to watch him, and the guy is a hell of a passer for a big man. So it's just been pretty crazy. He becomes the 6th international player to win the MVP award, and it's just really amazing what this guy has transformed into. A few years ago, really looked unathletic, and while he still looks that way, I mean, he can just get it done, hitting threes. He's got a big body. He's developed an offensive game as well. He's definitely put together a really impressive repertoire and been the centerpiece for this Nuggets team that's been the first, second seed over the last couple regular seasons. So, props to him because, I liked Jokic for MVP. And like I said, maybe some of those other guys gave it to us in flashes, but Jokic was probably your MVP for the course of the season. If you had an MVP vote, and you're thinking about maybe who your candidate is, you can burn up the lines here, 617-702-2542. If anybody was mad that Steph Curry didn't win one, come on, Steph Curry's already won 2. He won the unanimous one. How many does Steph Curry need? Nobody was crying when LeBron was losing all these every other year, or Jordan was losing all these every other year. Why is everybody crying for Steph Curry? I don't get. This guy's just the golden boy of the NBA. Can do no wrong. But the other thing, too, is that's probably going to make Whitey from Queens happy is Tom Thibodeau actually got the nod for Coach of the Year, and something that I didn't think was going to happen. I thought it was going to be Monty Williams, who led the Suns to that second, that second spot out in a really competitive West. But Tom Thibodeau, really the guy that probably should have earned it, and maybe Whitey will call later to throw that in my face, but Thibodeau is a hell of a coach, and the fact that in this generation of stars where, they're all guys in their phone, they don't typically respect somebody who makes you grind it out. He made these guys play tough. They play defense. They hit threes. Look at somebody like Julius Randle, who was maybe like 16-10 or something before he came to this team and became the most improved player. Certainly a candidate for the most valuable player, too. So it looks like they've got to learn some things, but they're definitely in the right direction. And I think Thibodeau's a great coach, quite frankly. I saw it as something that definitely made me sad. When he left Boston, I knew that the Celtics weren't going to be able to keep him long enough to make him happy, but I would have loved to see him move on and be the next Celtics coach after Doc Rivers. Obviously, they weren't going to fire Doc Rivers because they never fire coaches, and they didn't fire Brad Stevens. They make this guy a president before they fire him. So, and getting back into that, was Danny Ainge fired? Because you hear some of these press conferences, and they ask him, what are your plans? And, was talking to my wife the other night. Well, if this was something that you had planned out, wouldn't you be talking about this months in advance? So it's all very convenient. Boston teams can never let anybody go under any circumstances. You've got to cover everything up in a cloud of smoke. So whatever happened there, we'll continue to see. But a lot of interesting stuff going on in the NBA. Some of those awards coming out. So that's all pretty good stuff there. We'll definitely touch on the Nets too. I mean, how can we not talk about the Nets? They are just. Did anybody think they were going to have a problem without Harden? Because if you did, you look pretty foolish right now. I mean, they are running over the Bucks. How many people nationwide said that this team was going to face a challenge in the Bucks? I mean, they haven't even had Harden, and they're just destroying. Did you see what Kevin Durant did to Antetokounmpo's ankles the other night? That should be illegal. He's 7 feet tall and put him in an absolute blender doing the cross, a double cross, and hitting the shot over him. So Kevin Durant has just been insanely, so good. This guy is 7 feet tall. He shoots like a guard. He moves like a guard. He can defend. He can do everything. And actually just today, Stephen A. Smith was salivating over him a little bit, saying that he could make the case that Kevin Durant is the best player in the world.
He's the best player in the world, okay? Because I think that he has that kind of effect. This dude is efficient. He's a sniper. He's 6'11" with a handle. He's got a mid-range game that could rival anyone's on the planet. The guy's got long-range sniper ability. He's lanky. He's long. He can drive to the basket. He can defend, Shorter guys, he can defend guys his size. Now, if you got big size and girth and all of that stuff, no, you put him on your hips. That'd be problematic because he's skinny. That's about the only thing you could hold against Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Do I think he is the best player in the league? No. I don't think you can take away that title from LeBron when LeBron isn't healthy. Because I think we see look at what the Lakers looked like this year when LeBron was healthy. So am I going to say that he's absolutely the best player in the league? No, I'm not. But 1A, 1B. This guy can do whatever you need on a basketball court. He's the most efficient scorer that I've ever seen. I don't think that you see guys that can score 30 points at the regularity that this guy can off 15, off 18 shots. And 32 points off 18 shots. He is somebody that's just really special. He can pass it. He can defend it. He's 7 feet tall. It doesn't even make sense. It's against the law of physics sometimes what Kevin Durant can do at 7 feet tall. This guy's like the size of Shaq. And can shoot threes, can cross guys up. It is unfair. He is a absolute cheat code. He's so long and lanky, and Kyrie is absolutely playing at a fantastic level too. But the Nets are really making it look easy, and they don't even need Harden to do it. What are they going to do when you have Harden on that court too? They're just kind of lollygagging and getting through. They don't need to do anything too special to win these games. Have they even really looked like they've broken a sweat or looked terribly challenged in these first 6 playoff games? I don't think so. So in losing that Celtics game, that must have been a quick lapse, but I wasn't buying that anyway. Things are changing there, and the Nets, they've absolutely built a powerhouse. Blake Griffin, I think Detroit wants a little bit of money back on him. He played for them for 2 years and didn't have a dunk. He's played for the Nets for 15 games, and I think he has 18 dunks. He's played in 7 games in the playoffs, has 7 dunks. So maybe you mail it in a little bit when you're playing for Detroit. And maybe the Nets were a little bit smart that Blake Griffin had something left in the tank. It's really a case of he probably was doing absolutely whatever he could to get out of Detroit. And what's kind of become sad is that you can really join a top team like that and get bought out. And we've seen Andre Drummond go to the Lakers. We saw Blake Griffin go to the Nets. But in all this talk about how good the Nets are, it also brings up a debate. Who do you think would win? Would it be the 2017-2018 Warriors, where they had somebody like they had obviously the starting 5 that they had, and Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Durant, Iguodala, Draymond Green, versus today's Nets in Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, Blake Griffin? I don't want to sit on a fence, but that's pretty tough. That could be a coin flip. Because Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, they probably cancel each other out. Obviously, Kevin Durant cancels himself out. And then it's all about who's better, Iguodala and Draymond or Joe Harris and Blake Griffin. And obviously, I'm taking Andre Iguodala and Draymond, but I'm probably taking Kyrie and James Harden over Steph Curry and Klay. So that's a really tough one. These are 2 powerhouses that have been built over the past 4 or 5 years that just look, I never thought that you'd be seeing that type of talent in the top 3 players on one team. These are 2 teams where you could legit make an argument that both of them have had 3 of the top 5 players at one point, in the league on one team. So does chemistry matter? No. Passing chemistry is not important for the NBA. You just get the stars, you put them in one place, you make them happy. And that's what the Celtics need to do. Find out who Tatum is friends with, bring him to Boston, and then get one other guy that they are friends with. Look what the Nets even did, bring in who is that scrub? I'm forgetting the name. I'm forgetting the name of the center that plays for the Nets. God, he's some big scrub. He's like 6'11". DeAndre Jordan. So DeAndre Jordan comes in for like a 4-year, $40 million contract. Is he good? No. He happens to be friends with Kyrie and Durant. And that's worth a 4-year, $40 million contract. They get rid of a young center in Jared Allen, who's a 22-year-old stud who can swat the ball like nothing, and bring in somebody like DeAndre. So look how worth it is to get the right guys in one spot. Look what the Warriors did. They were a team that was scratching on the surface. They had 73 wins. What did they do? Oh, wait, no, we need one more star in Kevin Durant. And the Nets, they had Kyrie and they had Durant. What did they say? We don't have enough stars. We need one more of the top 5 players. So can we stop with the chemistry? Can we stop with the long build? Anybody who's rooting for a long build at this point in the NBA is off their rocker. All it is about getting the talent in one spot. You get the guys that are, look at the top 5, look at the top 10 guys in the league, put together as many of those as you can, and that's how you win a title. That's how you win a title these days in the NBA. So don't tell me about a long build. Don't tell me about drafting guys that are young, trading for young, getting assets. Nope. Put it all together, throw it in, put it all on the table. We've got one on the table right here. Hi, you're live with Open Season. Who do we got?
Yeah, it's Whitey from Queens.
Whitey. You calling in with a little Tibbs talk?
I don't know, man. All this Nets talk make me want to go vomit and shoot myself.
Hey, man, I hate it too, but they're going to waltz to a championship.
Yeah, and it's sad because no one's going to care. I mean, like, it's just the reason why I hate KD so much. It's not just because he hops on bandwagon teams. But then he has audacity to like rip the Knicks, who like saying the Knicks aren't cool, man. Well, look at the turnout at Madison Square Garden versus the Barclays Center. The Nets are not cool. No one's a Nets fan in New York City.
I agree. I mean, how could you be a Nets fan over the past couple of years? I mean, how much merchandise can they possibly be selling? Who can be like an actual Nets fan and like truly mean it?
The only fans are young kids in Brooklyn and people from New Jersey, because they're the New Jersey Nets this whole time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. It is sad that you can just get all the stars to one place, but it's like and win. But it's like this is until they make an adjustment against it, they're showing you that this is the formula. This is what you have to do to, the Knicks. We can sit here and say they've got a great coach. They've got a great most improved player. But I think we all know that instead of this long build that any of these teams are trying to do, you just have to get talent in one spot. Like I'm sure, you'd send half that team out for another star, or, I'd like to see the Celtics do the same thing. I just feel like that's the biggest thing I've learned over the past few years. It doesn't matter how, you just get the stars together. You fill in the pieces around them, and that's how it works. It's sad. It's not exciting, but the teams that do it, I mean, aside from the Clippers are cursed, but.
I mean, if you look at what the Hawks did, I mean, the problem with the Knicks is Randall's not a superstar. He's an all-star, played out of his mind. He deserves to be in the top 5 MVP voting. But in the playoffs, that's when you need to have multiple superstars, not stars, multiple superstars. And really, I mean, you have to get lucky with the draft to, develop a superstar. Or you have to do what, you're talking about, just get friends to just join together and sign as free agents, and then you'll have multiple assets that you could trade for a third star. I mean, exactly what the Nets did. Unfortunately, it's not like what the Knicks do. What they did with Melo, where they traded their entire core for Melo, and then Melo's basically playing with scrubs. So the mere thought that they're trying to do that with Damian Lillard is scary. Like gutting the whole team for Lillard. Then you'd have to be sure that he would have to like get more of his friends to come sign as free agents. So that's pretty much the only way to do it.
Yeah. I really don't know how to beat this whole system. I mean, I think it's pretty ugly what the NBA has created, where you can just kind of like go to, you just put together guys like there's no.
You just have to do is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just what you have to do, which is actually what the Knicks have been doing, which I've been very happy about, is you just have to stock, assets. You have to have a lot of first round picks, a lot of young promising players, and just stock up on assets, and then hope you can sign a free agent that's a superstar quality level, because it won't cost you anything. It won't cost you any of those prospects, and then you can trade all your assets to get other superstars.
Yep.
And it's pretty much like what the Jazz did, the Nuggets did. I mean, that's kind of like a fluke, because in the end we know the Jazz and the Nuggets are not going to beat the Nets,
Right.
But they did build solid teams through the draft, and sign key free agents.
But I think that's what we're saying is that, yeah, sure, you can build a solid team, but at the end of the day, all that matters is where these guys want to sign, where the best players want to sign in free agency, which is so tough about how do you fix this NBA? I mean, how do you make it so that there's actual competition? If you're one of the teams, I mean, who's going to win a title before a season starts this year. If you don't have 2 or 3 of the top 15 players, I mean, how do you even think that you have a chance to win a championship in this league?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the only way to win a championship. But so, for the rest of us, for the Celtics fans, the Knicks fans, the Jazz fans, we just have to be happy that we have a winning culture and that are in the playoffs. But it's pretty much hopeless to win an actual ring unless you have 3 superstars. I mean, unfortunately, that this goes back to LeBron. It kind of started with LeBron. I know stars played with each other. Like you always mentioned, like Barkley going on the Rockets and things like that. But the super team really was created by LeBron, and then basically now it's on steroids. That's the super team on steroids now.
Well, we're not going to give any blame to the Celtics for creating it. I hate how it always goes on to LeBron. I mean, there's no blame for the Celtics and what they created, because I think that's really what. I mean, we can hash this out another time, but does any blame from you go on the Celtics? Because I think they kind of made LeBron see that, hey, I could be the best player in the world, but I'm not going to beat 3 of the best players.
But the way they did it is different, though. They didn't have a group chat and be like, yo, let's all go play together. Basically the Celtics traded for those guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where LeBron and D Wade and Bosh all got on a phone call with each other and say, hey, let's all play in Miami. And that's what, the Warriors did with KD. And that's what KD and Kyrie did a few years ago with the Nets. And then, they got on the phone with Harden, and they're like, Harden, just show up to camp, 50 pounds overweight, force a trade, and come here.
Harden, sit on my couch for a couple weeks and just wake and bake, and then show up to Rockets camp. Yeah. No, it's insane. Because the thing that I can't get over is not only does Harden get the most amount of money, that he can also completely tank the Rockets team, and then it's like there's no repercussion. You just go to the best team. It's like, you get nowadays you get a reward for being a douchebag who's going to hold out and all, there's no. They need to start sitting these guys or something. It's like same thing with Anthony Davis. I mean, he wants to hold out. And he gets sent to the best team. So it's like you're showing these guys that the path to victory is just, don't be a team guy. There used to be something, and now none of these teams, nobody cares about the history. Nobody cares about what the Celtics were back in the day or what the Lakers were back in the day. It's all about, playing with your friends and stuff like that. Nobody cares about coming to a team for the culture. That means nothing. I feel like fans are so disillusioned when you're like, oh, we have great culture here. They're not coming for the culture. They're coming for the money. They're coming to play with their buddies.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I hate that we have to complain about the fact that superstar athletes are, doing this to win titles. It's kind of like, I'm just pissed that I have to be pissed about this. Because technically they're all doing this for the right reason, that is to win, not for their brand, things like that. But it's just created such a lopsided NBA where you always have one team that's unbeatable every year.
Yeah, right. It's a weird concept, right? Because a few years ago, you'd probably say these guys should take less money. They should play. They should play with each other, and all that. And now it's like the thing is though is that you can get the most money and play with. You can do 3 max deals and get those guys, and people are finding a way around it. You don't really have to take less. It doesn't really require you to be that much of a team player to put together one of these teams. What do you think Durant's legacy will ultimately be? Like, when he hangs him up, like, how much are people going to value? So let's say maybe he wins 3 titles. Maybe we could say he wins 4. Like, I just feel like his 4 titles are not going to be weighed as heavily as some of the other titles that have been won.
Yeah, he's going to be the softest all-time great of all time.
Yeah.
Like when you stack him up against Kobe, like, yeah, he's probably more talented offensively than Kobe, but like he'll never eclipse Kobe because Kobe had the killer mentality. He won in one organization. He didn't hop around on bandwagons, get easy rings. You know, I mean, I guess when you had Shaq, that was pretty easy, but his second stint, when all he had was like Gasol and like Odom, like he didn't have super teams, and he won titles on that team. So like, until KD wins a ring without having 2 literally top 5 players playing with him, I don't think he can eclipse Kobe.
Yeah,
but he's definitely an all-time great. It's just, I don't know, he's just mentally the weakest, and he is a killer assassin in the games. It's just like his moves off the court are soft, you know, like just the way he joined super teams.
I know. I agree with you because, like, on the court, Durant is everything you could want in a player. Like, he's selfless, he's efficient, he plays defense, he passes. You know, he, like you said, he hits clutch shots, but it's like, yeah, he just hasn't put himself in the greatest positions where he's going to have a lot of responsibility for these. So I just wonder how much people, like, you know, not to say like people like LeBron haven't played with good talents to win or something like that, but it just feels like Kevin Durant there really hasn't been. I mean, those Warriors teams, they easily won those championships. This Nets team is easily going to win a championship. It shouldn't be this easy.
Yeah, it's just unfair, basically. Like, I know LeBron plays with superstars, like, you know, Kobe played with Shaq. Like, everyone, all the greats had great teammates, but like you never thought it was actually unfair. Like the superstars' teammates.
Yeah,
it's just unfair to the league, the rest of the league. It's unfair to the Bucks. I mean, Jesus Christ, look at they get blown out by 40 points without Harden. It's just like that just shows you that's unfair.
Well, how many times are the Bucks going to run this back and just like, you know, it's like Giannis has to change something. It's just like every playoffs, you know that if you pack the paint, that he's not going to be able to hurt you the way that. I mean, if you watch the way that the Nets are playing, they're just absolutely packing the paint and just not letting him beat them there. I feel like during the regular season, he can run down and, you know, get comfy and get his spots, but I just feel like I heard a lot of people nationwide say that the Bucks were going to play good in this series and maybe take the Nets out, and I just thought that was a ludicrous thought from the start. You know, I mean, it's basically 3-on-1 versus Giannis, and even when it's 2-on-1, the Nets are, you know.
Yeah, it sucks for Giannis because, like, clearly he's just. I feel like you have this branch of superstars that all play together, but then you have these branches of superstars that are stuck in a crappy place where they actually can't get their friends to come play. Like Damian Lillard, Giannis, you know, like maybe Tatum. Like you're talking about Tatum a lot. Like, does anyone really want to play? I know this, like you said, like the Celtics franchise history doesn't matter to this group of kids.
Yeah.
So like, is Boston bringing in any superstar free agents to play with Tatum? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't think they have a great chance to. I don't think Boston by any means is a destination. I think, you know, you've got to probably have space to give somebody a max contract and hopefully that you find somebody who's friends with Tatum. But I don't think that Boston's by any means is a destination. So I agree with you.
Yeah, it's all because you guys are racist over there. No, I'm just kidding.
So racist. Only to Kyrie, though, you know?
Oh my God! I wanted to call on last week, but to rip on Kyrie, but I feel like too many of your Boston friends had to hop on that opportunity. But yeah. It's basically calling people racist who yell at him when really they're yelling at you because you abandoned them and you left, and then you wipe your feet on the logo, like, and then you call them racist for yelling at you, like.
It's just like he preempted that. He's just basically like, you know. if they yell at me, they're racist, and then like he does all this crap. It's like, dude, they're not
But
yelling
he eggs
at
them
you.
on to
Exactly.
He eggs
It's
them
like
on to yell at him.
you said, I'll stay here if you'll have me, and then you left. Like, you don't think there's gonna be repercussions for that? I mean, it's like you can't take getting booed for that. It's just like the guy, he can't handle anything. So yeah, he's a great talent too, but. As are you, Whitey. We appreciate you calling in and going back and forth with us a little bit. The Nets' hatred, hopefully somebody can stand tall to them, but I think that, that they're going to get through this conference pretty easily. And quite frankly, I don't even know somebody in the West who do you think would be the best team in the West? I guess we'll let you leave on that. Who do you think is the best team in the West that's left in it?
Honestly, I may have to lean Suns.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this is what like I was going to talk about Tibbs winning Coach of the Year. He rightfully deserved that because Vegas had them winning 21 games and they doubled it. So what does Vegas think about the talent that Tibbs is working with? And he got that team. I mean, the talent deficiency between the Knicks and the Hawks were on full display in round one. I don't know, like Coach of the Year is not like a playoff thing. It's based on what you do in the regular season. He obviously got the most out of what talent he had, so that's deserving. On the other hand, the Suns have the talent to win. You talk about Booker, Ayton, Mikal Bridges, like CP3. It's just like it's really explosive talent. Like I watched this team like just crush the Knicks at home, with Chris Paul just hitting like dagger threes at the end of the game, and I'm just like, see, this is a team that has real talent. So like, how much is attributed to the coach? You know what I mean? Like that. This is a team where I think they're going to go to the finals now.
Wow.
The Nuggets, the Nuggets don't have Jamal Murray. I think the Clippers would give them the biggest fight, but I just don't think they have. I just don't think they have like the real veteran leadership you want, which you have with Chris Paul. Like I don't think Kawhi is that. He's not really a leader. Paul George is certainly not a leader. Who's their leader? Patrick Beverley. He's a scrub. I mean, he plays hard on defense. He's like a poor man's Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
So,
oh gosh,
yeah, I think
Marcus
this
Smart.
and going to 7 games against the Mavs, like you said earlier. I mean, all they have is Luka. I mean, Porzingis is a bum. I mean, the guy gets 4 rebounds a game. He's 7'3". All he does is park outside the line. I hate that guy. All he does is he just pops threes, hangs out behind the line, doesn't get rebounds. Like, what are you? Why are you 7'3"?
Exactly. I mean, honestly, the Clippers should be embarrassed that they won 7 games on that. I mean, the Clippers should sweep that series. Let's be real.
Yeah.
If they were really playing. But, hey, man, appreciate you calling in, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, man.
All right, cool.
Later.
So, yeah, I mean, you got to wonder if Whitey thinks good things about Tom Thibodeau. You probably knew he had to call in about that one. Probably had some next-gen stats ready to fire off. But I thought that was interesting, him saying that the Suns are the best team left. So let's see if they can – we've got somebody else burning up the line here. Hi, you're live with Open Season. Who do we got?
Hey, Billy, what's going on? It's Matt giving you a buzz.
Matt. Hey, how you doing, man? What's on your mind?
Not bad, brother. Hey, just tuning in. I was tuned in, and then I got sidetracked a little bit, so I'm not sure what you guys have covered until just about the past 10 minutes or so, talking shop with Whitey from Queens over there.
Yep.
But so
well, hey, man, it happens to the best of us. Fire away, whatever you got. We'll give you the open slate.
Appreciate it, brother. Hey, so hopefully you're not repeating yourself, but, I'm a little, concerned about the Julio Jones trade. The fact that the Titans, that Mike Vrabel, that son of a bitch, got him for a 2nd and a 4th round pick, I got to imagine 31 other teams are really kicking themselves in the ass at this rate. That's all it took. There wasn't, people who have like the 28th to the 32nd pick that, could have outdone that. Like, what's the story there? Why do you think 31 other teams didn't let Julio Jones slip through the cracks like that? Do you think Mike Vrabel is, he was willing to give up the most? Like, what's the story here?
Yeah, man. Honestly, that's a great point. We actually hadn't even gotten to the Julio Jones stuff, and that's where I was looking to go with Whitey. So this is a great segue. I think that Julio Jones actually has a lot left. I think, not a ton left. I mean, I feel like he's got But clearly, I think he's got like another year or two at top performance. I think this is somebody who he's 6'3". He stays healthy. Last year was really the only year that he's had significant injuries. I mean, this is somebody who's easily put up like 1,500 yards over the last 5-6 years. I think that it is very interesting. It's almost like when Bradford got traded. It was like, did they call anybody else to see if there were going to be different picks there or anything like that? So, and I think that it's definitely a really scary team. I mean, think about the prospect of being able to run the ball with Derrick Henry and having A.J. Brown and Julio Jones on the outside. And look how efficient, I don't think Ryan Tannehill... Yeah, I don't think Ryan Tannehill has been the best quarterback, but he's been extremely efficient over the past couple of years. So I think that Mike Vrabel is definitely showing a little bit of the, I think that whether you want to count him under the Belichick tree, I think he's probably been the most strong candidate so far to come out underneath Bill. And I think the fact that he was able to get that, how do you not make other calls around the league? I mean, Carson Palmer went for 2 first-round picks however many years ago. Maybe it was 10 years ago now, but still,
that's the Raiders.
Yeah. So I mean, to send a 2022 second-round pick, a 2023 fourth-round pick, for the best receiver in the past 10 years. I mean, the Patriots. You don't want to put your hat in the ring. You don't want to. So I think the Titans are going to have a really tough offense to guard. So I do think that, kind of everything that you were saying is that they're set up really well. I don't know why other people were into this. I was kind of thinking at first. So you're telling me that Julio Jones left Matt Ryan to play with Tannehill, but then when you just think about the offense that they're going to be able to put together, it's like you said, pick your poison. Who are you going to guard? You're going to guard Derrick Henry, who, when you put everybody in the box, still runs for 250 yards? Or are you going to guard, A.J. Brown, who has had over 1,000 yards without even playing in 16 games, and Julio Jones? I mean, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. So the Titans are they're going to look really good, and I quite frankly don't know why you would let something like that happen. I don't know why. Yeah, you're telling me that nobody was willing to offer more than that? So is it something where maybe the Titans were like the only one that were willing to sign him to like something a little long? I feel like we haven't even really heard what's going to come out as far as like what they're going to have to pay Julio Jones or. So I don't know. That's the only thing I can really think of. But I think in just a straight up trade, it really makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, obviously I don't think they're televised that much up here, but I mean, between Mike Vrabel, like I feel like as a New England fan, you're going to, have nothing against rooting for the Titans outside of the time that they're playing the Patriots, because, Vrabel's the man. There's so many people on that team to like, Ryan Tannehill, like, really solid guy, like really good story. Like I wouldn't mind watching and rooting for the Titans because for a variety of reasons, but that's just going to be such a dynamic offense to watch.
Yeah,
it's going to be exciting and fun football to watch. So yeah, I'm excited about it. Who's their tight end now? Jonnu Smith's gone.
That's actually a good question. Who is their tight end? I don't know.
And then was it Delaney Walker that was outside of Jonnu Smith, who's now on the Patriots?
Delaney Walker was the tight end a few years ago. I don't think he may be a little older now. I can't think of it if it's not Jonah. I mean, obviously it's not Jonnu Smith, but I just can only really think of him as their top option. Maybe they drafted somebody. But I mean, here's the thing too: is Julio Jones?
Now. It looks like it's Anthony First.
Julio Jones is getting paid $15.3 million this year. Like, you wouldn't pay Julio Jones $15.3 million for a year of his prime. Like, how many guys are getting $15.3 million at the wide receiver position right now that, it just
aren't the best.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me on, like, why you wouldn't take 1 year of $15 million on him. I mean, if you had to franchise him, you'd be paying him, like, $20 million or something. Like, I don't know. So there's just really a whole lot of things that don't make sense to me all the way through on that one. So I think Tennessee is going to be really good, and I kind of hate it because it's like you knew when Vrabel went down, like you knew that Vrabel was like kind of the seed that was going to, like, I don't know, get away and cause all the, like, I don't know. I feel like he's sticking it to Bill. Like he's not afraid. He puts his balls on the table. I mean, this is the type of coach I would want. Like he makes the moves that you need to do. Like he sat Mariota. Like he's done all these things. Like, you know, when your team's good, you don't just stop. You bring in Julio Jones if you have an opportunity to. Like he does things the way that I like it done. So
same here. He rocks a really solid mustache.
I was just gonna say that too. How can you root against that?
Man. Now, speaking of football, and I don't know if you still got time for this. What do you think of Aaron Rodgers not showing up?
I think it's par for the course. I think that you could have predicted this maybe a couple weeks ago. I still don't know what's going to happen with him necessarily. I don't know where he thinks he's going to go. Like, I get that he really wants out of Green Bay, but where is he realistically going to go that wants him and gives him a better chance to win this year than Green Bay? Like, if he goes to Denver or something that you've heard maybe rumored, does that give him a better chance to win this year? I don't think so. I think the best chance for him really, if he cares about winning, I think he's got to realize that, you know, the grass isn't always greener. You have a pretty decent situation where you are. I don't know. I see Green Bay as probably the best option for him if he wants to win something. I don't really know where he goes. I mean, what do you think about that? I still kind of see him staying in Green Bay, and I don't know if he would. I think he might be too old to like bluff and take a year off. Is he really going to take a year off at age 38? Probably not. I don't think he's going to straight up retire after an MVP season. So I don't know what he's going to do. Wish I had a better answer.
I mean, I've heard. Have you noticed, like, when it comes to quarterbacks being traded or on the market, like, you always hear that, like, the Raiders are in the equation. Like, I always feel like the Raiders, or at least the analysts or the reporters, are always down to throw Derek Carr under the bus and say, like, that John Gruden's totally willing to part ways with this guy that just got paid a lot of money not too recently. And I don't think he's necessarily, you know, he's not as elite as some people thought at one point in time that he was, but he's certainly not as bad. What do you think about that scenario, him going there? Like, what's the kid from Alabama from a couple of years ago, Ruggs? He got drafted there. They have a couple of decent young bucks. What are your thoughts on that possibility? I always hear the Raiders and, you know, as their hats being, you know, thrown around.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because if you're Green Bay, you're definitely thinking, like, we need to get a quarterback in this if we're going to make a move. You know, unless you're sold on Jordan Love, which I don't know if they are. But to your point too, I think that Carr has played pretty well. I mean, like, he's not as easy to replace as people would think. I would think, like, this guy throws for 4,000 yards. He's like tremendously efficient. He doesn't throw a lot of picks. I mean, like, he may not be the best, but I feel like he's better than a lot of other options that you could have. So, but I think the reason why that comes up a lot is because the Raiders come up a lot is because you've seen John Gruden give up a haul before for offensive players. Like, he's kind of always been known as a quarterback whisperer. So, like, if he could get his hands on an Aaron Rodgers, like, you know, you remember when he was in the Monday night booth and used to talk about guys like Brady and Manning and just how he starts drooling. You know, I think it's something where he's shown before that he would give up a haul for a player like that and probably, you know, just being the quarterback type guy. I just don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily a better, like, Oakland has been improving. I just still don't know if I see a better option for Aaron Rodgers than Green Bay this year. I think Green Bay is in a decent position to do pretty well. Like, sure, Tampa's probably the number one team, but I think Green Bay could be a number two in the NFC if they bring everybody back. So
I don't know. I think you just can't get past the things, you know, above the team. You know,
yeah.
Like, I think he's indifferent to the coach. Like, I don't think he respects or disrespects the coach one way or another. I think the coach means nothing to him, but I think he believes that the friggin' GM is a joke. He doesn't think, and I just don't think he can get past some of the decision making that he feels has been slighted towards him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also think that, you know, apparently he was really pissed when they took Jordan Love, and he's played 2 years since that has happened. So I don't know. You know, it's definitely good food for thought. We appreciate you. We've run a couple minutes over, so appreciate you calling in. It was awesome to have you, but we'll let you go, and then we'll wrap up the show here. So appreciate you calling in, Matty.
You got it, Billy. Talk to you soon, brother.
All right, take care. All right, yeah, so that does it for Matt. We appreciate him calling us in to flip the page to Julio Jones. Definitely some interesting stuff there, and glad we were able to get to that. That is going to do it for the open season program tonight. We take you a couple minutes late, but we'll catch you next week at the same time, same place. Thank you all for tuning in, and take care. Bye.
I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate you, Bryan Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense.